Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to make my presentation, and I would like to thank professors for the excellent moderation. I'm so happy that we can be here live, not online, because it's a very different feeling. I wanted to talk to you about sensation, between number and sensation. That's the title of my presentation, and I will continue my presentation. And to some extent, I live in my bubble. But I think that each of us, we all live in our bubbles. Our bubbles may be more or less open to others, or maybe fully closed, and it's our particular expression and concept. So number of structures based on volume, structure of chiaroscuro, where is the sense of architectural beings enclosed? Basic questions related to the issue arising from the activities in order to categorize architecture will be asked here today. And I'll be presenting my point of view. The key questions related to the issues arising from the activities undertaken in order to categorize architecture within a specific group of sciences and other creative areas. Can its creations be described with a pattern? Can it be subject to evaluation, or is it perceived in some subjective way? Let me rephrase this question, and I will invite you to hold a dialogue with me. What are you? Space, abyss of form, a mystic puzzle of histories, or structure, construction, norm, standard and number, shining, power, strength and rock. You are experience, perception, touch, smell, sound and silence. It's me and you, merged. You seem us. It is worth considering the question, is architecture the result of artisanal work based on numbers, patterns, coordinate, dependence, calculations, and material specifications, a product of technology? The question seems all the more justified as it originates from the field of technical sciences. But is architecture an embodiment of artistic visions created by compositions of life, rhythm, and space? Or is artistic indications reflected in the work in work projects being the art of abstraction, feeling the dullness of everyday life, or treated as a living skin, as a reflection of social behavior? Is architecture a response to psychological needs and human expectations? Or maybe its objectivity of its existence and the measurability are the determinants of the range of infinite possibilities of shaping emotions and thinking perceived in behavior categories based on the cognitive model of the world? Do those sensory experience resulting from being in its company determine the decisions we make? Do they influence the quality of our views, taste, and thinking about the external environment? Or maybe that affects the quality of our surroundings? Or maybe architecture has even more profiles of action that we do not verbalize, although we experience them sensually. Objectivity remains at the level of evaluation of measurable data, that is areas, culture, etc. of the building economy. And quite often they are governed by emotions, and they often ruled by emotions. We're taking precedence over the price, direct the choice to an architectural phenomenon. Projections showing functional zones, communication, and rooms proportions are for nothing. All the more executive and construction drawings lose their importance when all these things that we already know, that we know what we're destined for, and were accompanied by the VR images. The human, entering the embrace of architecture supported by emotions, accepts its joys and is able to love infinitely, or is not able to accept the indicated forms at the first contact with it. When he finds a partner in the dialogue of existence in architecture, he expresses his emotions, filling its space with the scent of perfume, plants, dishes wafting from nooks and granaries, the sound of music, whispers, sometimes crying. It feeds on light that travels on the walls and the floor, which brings the details to life within reach and can add magic to even the most banal of objects. It soothes the silence, acoustically filled partitions to be able to contemplate and persist in its own world. Well, the concept, the words quoted from Zumthor's study, architecture has its own area of existence. It is this area sensitive vessel for rhythm of steps on the floor. We listen what the man has to say, how it sounds when put in dialogue. Rasmussen also speaks about architecture, treating the building as a composition of only voids. And the feelings accompanying to the physical contact with architecture do not remain unnoticed and fill architecture with our emotions. It is us and our life, regardless of its nature. We transfer our secrets to the interior of architecture, believing that we find a good confidant in her form. Without emotions and recalling from memory these experiences of delight and excitation, it is impossible to speak. Looking at the following example, the view of the Barcelona skyline from the radio and television tower, it's a unique phenomenon. Only from this place such view is possible. Feelings intensified by the awareness of the height at which we have found ourselves move emotionally. They evoke various associations with an unimaginable power of space and the creator with the game of cities in which we are only a small part with the city building Barcelona's narrative, with the multiplicity of conflicts and ideas of designers.
Oops. The
impression curve is different when we can experience something personally, and when it is very different when we analyze a photographic image. We'll have a very different impression when we direct contact with the designated space and object. The sensoric experience is different, and its strength depends on the sensitivity of each of us, mental and physical condition, the degree of emotional connection with the space, the aura, and the observer's age and gender. And actually, what you see here, it's Libeskind's museum in Berlin. As Rasmussen said, it was created in such a manner that the architecture is voidness, it's emptiness. The bottom part, the lower part of the museum is a creation of void spaces filled with our impressions, and this is what I felt when I was there. So architecture wakes us up and evokes our impressions and concepts. The perception processes, apart from the sense of sight, also take into account other senses which are in the close collaboration, and this guy distinguishing touch, hearing, and other neuroceptive experience of the world. And referring to the philosophy embodied cognition, the thesis which states that the content of complex mental states and processes such as mental representations, beliefs and reasoning characterized by abstraction arises on the basis of perceptual motor representations and functioning of the organism in the real world that leads to believe that the structural appearance is influenced by various factors which include, and here we have measurable data and external factors, senses, D and S, and these are sensual cognitive abilities, sensual reception of space. The word contemplates the process of recognizing architecture. Words assigned to them form the name of name it and abstract it from the ever-present context. This also distinguishing it while evaluating it at the same time. The words testify to the interference of the mind with the state of original image. So that must be merged into the linguistic sphere of the cognitive process. To make sense of reality, it is necessary to build a secondary symbolic image in one's mind. Language plays a key role in this process. It tames the subject with understandable schemes of meanings and content. However, there may be a distance and doubt between the word and the picture as to the accuracy of the word. Referring to Edmund Husserl's theories that consciousness is always intentional, we can go to the area of combining three meanings, form, image, and word, in order to be able to recognize architecture most holistically. The contrast of the author's interpretation, similar to Anthony's